Yo, what's up guys, Snowgoat here. I'm bringing you this video to go over the essentials to Frost Decay in 5 minutes or less. This is basically just going to be a guide on your rotation, your opener, best practices, things that you mess up on a lot, ways to avoid making these common mistakes, and all of the other things you need to know to parse and pump as Frost Decay. So without further ado, let's just get into it. I'm going to put the talents on screen right now. You're running this tree throughout all of Phase 1 and probably all of Phase 2, which is Sub Blood. You'll end up switching to a Sub Unholy tree later when you're dropping weapons that have enough weapon damage that Sub Unholy will scale better. But until that point, this is the tree that you're using for all of Phase 1 and probably all of Phase 2, so just copy it down. As far as gear goes, I'm not going to go over which piece of gear is best for which slot because people have already done that, like the guys who run the Wowhead site, so I'll show you that now. Google Wowhead, Frost Death Knight, best in slot, Phase 1, Phase 2, whatever phase you're in, and copy this list. If you don't have or you can't get access to all of these super best pieces, if you scroll down, the guys who make this site give you plenty of other options that you can use, and they sim all of the numbers, they do all of the math, so they're way smarter than you or me, so you don't need to figure out what gear is best on your own. You can literally just use this site and copy their lists and use the alt pieces they give you if you can't get access to those best pieces. Now, if you have a question about, oh, well, I have two pieces and I'm not sure which one is better, or should I use the one with more haste, or should I use the one with more hit? I don't know. Well, that's what simulators are for. So here's another website you can use. This is a Frost Death Knight simulator. You'd literally just come over here, you'd go to your talent, pick Frost Sub Blood, which is already going to have the meta spec ready. You'd go to your gear, you'd put in your gear with your gems and enchants all correct, so that it's matching your exact gear. Then you click simulate. It's going to simulate your DPS based on a fight that you can edit in these settings, but the base setting they already have is usually like a meta raid comp, and then whatever number gives you the higher number based on what gear you have on is the gear you're going to use. Okay guys, so before I go over your actual opening buttons and rotation, let's just go over a few important things you need to know pre-pull. So pre-pull, you're going to want to Army of the Dead on every single fight that you can Army of the Dead, and when you're using Army of the Dead, you're going to want to be in Unholy Presence. When you're in Unholy Presence and you Army of the Dead, your Army of the Dead will snapshot the haste you get from Unholy Presence, so they'll do more damage. After your Army of the Dead is done casting, you're going to switch back to Blood Presence, and then you can start your opener. Also, if you guys are wondering when you can and can't Army of the Dead pre-pull, depending on the boss, you can use this website here. It's basically going to tell you what fights you can Army of the Dead on pre-pull, and when you should use AMS on the fight to maximize your runic power generation, so I'll leave this link in the description. Something else you need to know for pre-pull. This is getting nerfed, but until it does get nerfed, it's still optimal to be using an indestructible potion of 60 seconds or more, but less than 2 minutes before the actual pull happens. When you can see my attack power here is 3,728. If I use my indestructible potion, you can see that my attack power goes up by almost 100. That's because of the talent Bladed Armor. It's giving you attack power based on your armor value. So until this gets nerfed, you're going to want to use this at least a minute before the fight. So ideally, when this potion timer refreshes and you can use another pot, that's right when you're pulling, and then you can use your haste pot in the actual fight. So something that might be happening to you that will mess up your opening rotation is if you just finished a bunch of trash and now you're about to pull the boss, you could have a leftover death rune from that trash that you didn't realize you had, and when you go to pull the boss and you do your standard opener, it's going to mess up that opener. So what you can do is just blood boil off that death rune and refresh your runes so that you have a clean rune bar to start the fight with. Now I'm going to go over the rotation that you're going to use on literally every single fight, and it's basically this simple. You start on Holy Presence, and you're going to want to Army of the Dead with at least 10 seconds left on the pull timer. 5. Then switch back to Blood Presence.
3, 2, 1.
Now you're going to run in. As you're running in, you're going to Icy Touch, Plague Strike, Unbreakable Armor, Blood Tap, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Pestilence, Empowered Rune Weapon, Triple Obliterate. Follow that up with a Frost Strike into a Raise Dead, Frost Strike 2 more times, now Double Obliterate, and Pestilence before your diseases fall off. Alright, so I'm going to go over your actual rotation now. Your priority number 1 is going to be applying and keeping up your diseases with Pestilence at about 2 seconds remaining, less, but never letting them fall off. Then your second priority is going to be obliterating on CD. Your third priority is going to be, if you have Killing Machine, cast Frost Strike. If you have Rhyme, Howling Blast if it won't overcap your runic power, or else Frost Strike. If you have a Blood Rune available that won't drop your diseases and won't overcap runic power, cast Blood Strike. If you have the runic for it, Frost Strike, or else Horn of Winter. Once you get the core rotation down, you can start incorporating using Rune Grace, which is basically frost striking between your obliterates when your unholy and frost runes are coming back up at the same time. Instead of obliterating back to back, you can obliterate, frost strike, obliterate, and because of Rune Grace, your obliterate rune is going to go on cooldown as if you had obliterated back to back, which over a long fight is going to net you extra frost strikes or other globals. Just be sure towards the end of the fight, you're obliterating as much as possible and that you're not sneaking in frost strikes and missing out on that last obliterate before the boss dies. One last thing towards the end of the fight, and I mean like 15 seconds or less before the boss dies, you can stop refreshing your diseases with Pestilence and use your double death runes to obliterate as much as possible right before the boss dies. Since your diseases aren't going to tick for very much longer anyway, you'll probably net more damage by extra obliterates.